All right, everybody. Happy Friday. It's your Uncle Ed coming back at you. And as you know, we're always kind of mixing it up when it comes to content. Today, we have a very interesting topic. So pay attention, take some notes because it's going to be fire right now. I have Marcos Rebolito, and this guy, man, I tell you what, I met him at a networking event and I was just so impressed. I've met a lot of people that are in the audio visual industry, but nobody has ever had not only just super enthusiastic conversation about audio visual, but just really looked at the human and spatial aspect of audio visual like this guy. So today he is my guest. So thank you very much for showing up, sir. How are you on this great Friday?
Great. Happy to be here, good sir.
Very good.
It's been a wonderful journey just meeting you and where we've come
Thanks.
to be. So I appreciate your time.
Ditto, right back at you. And by the way, thank you very much for showing up to last night's super successful
That
mixer.
was great.
Hopefully, you met a lot of good people.
I did. I did. It was
Very
a
good.
wonderful
That's
event.
the tribe, my friend.
Well worth
That's
the
how
trip,
we
sir.
build tribe.
Well worth
Very
the
good.
trip.
So let's jump right into it. Tell me how you got into this first off, because nobody
I've
wakes up right going, you know what, I'm going to be in the audiovisual business.
no. I've been working with computers, technology, and music and stuff like that since I was a kid. So I basically, after I got back after the military, I decided I'm just going to go to school and get stronger at those things that I did as I was younger. And so I went to school for computers. I went to school for sound. I got my major in sound. And I was doing IT support before I went to go to school for sound. And so after I got back, I got placed in a position where I was now supporting the conference rooms, the audio visual spaces, and all that great stuff. This was at Adobe Systems in San Francisco.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Soon after, I moved over to Munich, Germany to support Germany, Austria, Switzerland, the DACH region out there. And that's where I got more and more into applying the audiovisual support of the systems. So I got used to it at an international scale. Adobe was great because they have everything set up already, and they're not penny pinchers when it comes to acoustics inside of a space. And so you have more rooms that are intelligible. People can hear on the far end, for example. You're not hearing reverberance in the room and all that good stuff. So I had great examples of how systems, of what good looked like, and continued to develop the systems from there. I actually helped Adobe roll out Polycom technology and roll in the Cisco technology. Um, in 2013, I decided I was offered a position to change over to App Dynamics. They were in startup mode at that time, but they do metrics performance monitoring for NASDAQ basically uses them to take big amounts of information and make sense of them or make sense of it. So you can generate trends, reports, guidance if you want to do things like that, troubleshooting. It's a great platform. Before they were going,
Metrics aggregation. They were aggregating data.
basically, yeah, very similar to Splunk, as a matter of fact.
There you go.
Um, But what was interesting about that, so I helped them build their audio visual spaces from the ground up. We started specing technology. We defined what screens we were going to be using, the HDMI cables, and all that great stuff. At the same time, I've been working with audiovisual integration companies since the Adobe time. And oddly enough, the organization is called Avixa now, but back then they were called Infocom. That's now the trade show that we go to from the AV side of things. But Infocom ran at CTS, a design boot camp at Adobe headquarters, and I got flown out from Hamburg, Germany, to attend that course. Started taking over the design of the systems at Adobe, and actually helped redesign the East Tower, the Adobe Store. There's a steps system in the West Tower. We did all that great stuff. So good experiences, very great examples to learn from. And then when I got to App Dynamics, I started the service architecture side of things. They actually created a position for me called audiovisual architect. And there I was helping define what the company standards are, what our platforms are going to be in terms of collaboration, how we're going to get the word out, what resources are we using, how do we know what rooms are ready, all that great stuff. Before they went public, the day before at 4:45, that was when this big acquisition was announced, the biggest acquisition in history, where Cisco acquired AppDynamics for 3 point something, 3.6 or $3.7 billion, I believe. Well, coming from the Adobe side of things and rolling out Polycom and rolling in Cisco, I started wondering, what is a business that has end-to-end solutions need a service architect for? And so, oddly enough, the opportunity to transition over to Unity technologies and do the same thing. But this time, we're defining all of the business standards. We're talking about how the IT support model ties in your user experience. I became very, very privy to frown lines after a build out. That's how I test. That's what I was doing last night as well. If you're going into an environment or you're seeing officials, business folks, users, just us in general, we have a very specific collaborative practice. We want to get to where we're going. We want to do what we're doing. We want to engage with the conversation. We don't want to be fuddling around and troubleshooting and stuff like that. That pulls us away from the collaborative experience, much like a room that doesn't have good acoustic treatment, much like lighting that isn't great inside of your space. And you've got these weird lines and stuff like that going on. Um, Apple or Unity Technologies was the perfect opportunity to really dial in the service architecture side of things, especially because, when I first started off in that company, we had, I think, 8 projects going on in tandem, all at the same time in different stages. Helsinki, Singapore, Copenhagen, Montreal. We had something ramping up for Pereira, 2 build outs in San Francisco. It was crazy. And every time we started off the build out projects, the architects are like, what are your AV standards? How are our cables being run for room schedulers? Where are your HDMI cables doing? How high do our screens or how high are we mounting screens? Where do power and data need to go? Um, we have tables away from walls. Are we going to be putting floor cords? What size is your conduit? All the construction elements that go into the audiovisual build out side of things. The company had zero ideas. I sit down inside of a room and I'm typically testing. So 2 things. When a room or a space goes live, I'm looking for frown lines. If folks are frowning or doing any wincing or anything like that, and they're not engaged in a discussion trying to understand what the individual is saying, I typically take that as there's something that can be altered in the room to improve that experience for them. Much like if you're sitting down and you're looking at a screen like this. This is very typical in conference rooms, by the way, where you're sitting at the table and you're looking up like this. Let me ask you, Ed, what's your favorite seat in the movie theater?
I would say in the middle. Did we freeze? Oh, Marcus, are you there? Rose, that is his favorite place in the movie theater. Look, Marcus, are you there? I don't know what happened, man, but we're back.
We got cut off a little bit. No worries, no worries.
Yeah,
So
so
I
I
was
like
uh, I
sitting in
was
the middle.
in the middle, right? So just getting back to that point. So your favorite seat in the middle is because you can sit back and at a glance you can see the whole screen. You can see everything that's going on in one location, and that's great. It's very beneficial because um, you're not when you're sitting up like this for 2 hours, after you leave that movie, you're going to feel that. You're going to notice that. And you, as an executive, for example, you're collaborating constantly, constantly. And so you can't be sitting in a room like this, for 8 hours a day, 4 or 5 hours a day, or whatever the case may be. As after a while, you start developing vertebrae issues, you're uncomfortable in the space, and this is contributing to that psychological element of collaboration where I'm going to go find the room that feels better or operates better because it's just more comfortable that way. My goal is to kind of take all that experience and help create trends in the industry where AV is now at the forefront of project build outs and things like that. Because um, the experience at Unity taught me a couple of things where, first and foremost, no matter how great things look on paper, no matter how well things are planned out, some of the greatest learning lessons for me have been not to say, "Oh, this is going to be an easy project," and it is because no matter what happens, we we don't take into account the fact that any other trade that is held up in that build out delays AV. AV typically gets the rooms after lighting, after electricity, after the painters, the furniture
Oh, so
folks,
that is
plants.
usually the order of things. You
Yeah,
guys are
it
usually
typically is.
last.
Right. But
So
we
let
are
me ask you a
also,
question. How do
yes,
you
sir.
help your end user client process all this? Because this is a lot, right? Did you guys take
It
notes?
is.
It's a
It
lot
is.
of information, a lot of intake. How do you help them process it and then make it make sense and absorb it all? Because when I walk into a room, to be honest, not the first thing that I'm not thinking about is the sound, right?
Right.
Unless it's a movie theater that I know specifically I need this. But
Right.
when I walk into an office or things like that, I really don't think about it. So it's kind of like it's a background benefit, if you will,
It
right? So
is.
how do you help when you go in and somebody hires you? Kind of what's your process of a kind of surveying and two, helping the client process and understand the importance of your recommendations, for example?
That's a great question, and there are two types of users when it comes to this question. So the first is the business user, the average user, the employee, the person that's coming in to use the technology. And I like to have the rooms kind of set up and designed, and the space in general, so you're not thinking about it. The technology should just disappear. It'll be there. You can jump in like you jump in your car, like you jump on your phone, like you pull up an app and you start scrolling, or whatever the case may be. But those are, we learned how to do that one or two times, and then we were in our regular momentum of how that operates. So from the end point, from the end user side of things that's using that room or using that technology, I have two rules. One, it needs to be simple. That means simple enough so that grandma can use it. If grandma can use that room, sales, marketing, finance, HR, legal, workplace experience, the executives, the admins, anybody who doesn't care or isn't as technically savvy, and this isn't a you're not intelligent because you're not technically savvy, but it's that learning curve. The idea is you should be able to just get in, do what you need to do, and get out, and the next person comes in and does his thing, and the next person comes in and does her thing, or whatever the case may be. On the executive, the IT service admins, or the build out representation for the business, I really like to see what they have going on first, because I don't believe that you should spend a whole lot of money to, like, money is not going to solve your issue. We need to solve for time. Time is the thing that money cannot buy. And how do we solve for time? By making sure that infrastructure is in place where it needs to be. We make sure that power and data is where it's supposed to be, that conduit pathways are there. So we don't have an example like last night, where we were at the mixer and you've got cables and things that are draped across wood and they're exposed and stuff like that. You start doing that, as a regular practice. And now we have this office that's built that way. Now we're going to build another office in Tokyo and another office in Singapore and another office in Helsinki, or whatever the case may be. Well, if you don't have your standards in place before we start scaling out, we're not scaling something that is repeatable. We're not scaling something that's really supportable. And when it comes down to it, it makes it more cost. It makes it more cost prohibitive for business to operate that way, because you're spending more money in dollars on chasing squirrels and solving for time than anything. So that's how I like to address it.
Well, tell me what are your typical, and I hate to use that word, but what are your typical type of clients that you work with? Because I'm sure you have the B2B side, right? And you're helping businesses and in the conference rooms and that, but maybe you have also the end user B2C that maybe bought a house. You were telling me, give me this example of your cousin who needs a sound booth because he's a singer, right?
Correct.
Tell
Correct.
me kind of what that spectrum looks like for you.
The good news is that the industry standards for audiovisual apply to everything. And so what we do in one location, we do at all locations. So on the home side of things, or on the residential side of things, if individuals decide, hey, I want to build a theater or a movie, or install speakers, distributed ceiling speakers throughout my home or things like that, um, the approach is typically to kind of do a site survey and see what we're doing sonically, what we're doing visually, what are our line of sights looking like. Um, if something breaks, how do we support it? How can we get back there if we need to, get behind a screen, or if we need to get up into the ceiling, for example? Um, and most importantly, how do we make it so simple that when you're at home and you're using that experience, it's like picking up your phone, it's like brushing your teeth, it's like making your toast and coffee in the morning, or whatever the case may be. You, cool is amazing, but we should probably keep cool simple, because when we're just trying to engage in that experience, we're doing that for the enjoyment of it. And some of us do enjoy troubleshooting, but I don't find pleasure in knowing that I've left a home user or a business user in a situation where they're going to be stressed out about something. I just went and helped an elderly veteran that I've been working with since last year, who his system that he's working with is a little bit too complex for him, and he really doesn't. He's not. it's not the type of system that supports what he wants to do. So he's changing out his television provider and his internet provider. So I'll go back and help him out with that. But really, at
Oh,
the
so
end of the
you
day,
help with
it's
that too. So you do a full needs
yeah, yeah.
analysis based on
It's not my
content.
nuts and bolts, but I don't feel I feel like there's no home, there's no individual too small because collaboration is what we do as as a society, as a species. And AV is as a tool of collaboration, but we've been doing this since the tin can and string, sir. So
I love that. So give me a talk a little bit about your cousin's project that you just did to give people a sense of when you go in, this is what you do.
we're actually building this from scratch, and I'm doing the construction documentation as well as the schematic diagrams and all that great stuff for it. But Um, I have a family member who is very creative at 5 o'clock in the morning, and that's typically when we're either waking up or we're still sound asleep and don't want to hear somebody with a at 5 o'clock in the morning. It's probably going to irritate or rub a couple of people the wrong way. And so what I did is I went over and did a site survey of his environment to see what we're doing sonically first. Right, we're building a recording studio. I want to know what our noise floors are. That means any noise that's going on in the environment, how loud are those incidents or instances happening, because that's going to contribute to the amount of protection that we need, the sonic layer there. The other thing is, we're building a studio from scratch. So what I did was we went and measured the space, we figured out the dimensions that we're going to be working with, and then I was like, we're going to go do a field trip to Home Depot. We're going to start, we're going to go around, we're going to find materials, and we're just going to start figuring out what works well. And his first question was, well, how do we know what type of wood that we need and all that other great stuff? And my response is, we don't until we get there. And then we get there and we start talking to the wood. We're listening for wood that has low bounce, low reflectivity. We want redwood for the base part of that, so that if there's any floods or water in any way that goes into the garage, it's not going to rot the wood. Redwood's great for. I'm sorry, redwood is for the base, but Douglas fir is actually pretty good for acoustic isolation. I have a project that I did for another client where they asked me to do an acoustic for a home that was being sold because the HOA decided that they needed to put in materials inside of their space that exceeded the mathematics of their building. They wanted material that would have a sound transfer rating of 70 decibels of 70, but there's cracks and seeps under your doorway. Like I can see the light, and that's not a we've already exceeded the potential for that to be a 70, an STC rating of 70. But what was great about it is there was this material that I was doing research on, which is called Sentinel Premium Underlayment material. And it basically goes under linoleum floors. At $146 for 300 square feet of it, perfect thing to put on as you talk to it and sound stops. So we're lining walls with the insides of it between our studs on one layer. We're doing it on the other layer as well on the cavity or the space in between the studs. We have acoustic treatment going in inside of there. Drywall on one side, drywall on the other. I'm sorry, plywood, then drywall, plywood, then drywall, then acoustic sealant, then drywall again. And then we're sealing everything else off, and we're building the inside of it so that we're going to have 190-degree angle. So that means, and this will probably be where we put the bass trap. That's the perfect angle. But this angle up front is going to be 98 degrees, and this angle over here is going to be 97, and this one's going to be 96. So that, I'm sorry, 87 or 89, 87, 86. So we have a 90-degree 87 or 89, 87, 86. Um, I think that math is correct. We're gonna figure it out. But the idea is that you don't want perfect angles so that the walls don't make perfect reflections, and that will help slow down sound's ability to kind of bounce around. Once we get to that point, we go to the
Love
acoustic
that.
treatment, right? Acoustic treatment. But we're building it ourselves. This is, you're paying 20 grand for this as a
No, totally.
prefabricated unit. We're
I
not
love
even
how
close.
down and dirty and grassroots you get to the
Yes,
point
sir.
taking a field trip to Home Depot. I just love that approach. I've never
Yep.
heard of anybody do that. So, as we wrap up, how do people get a hold of you, whether it's a business owner or an executive at a business? or it's a homeowner who wants to do something in their house. How did they get a hold of you? I see that your email is mr@rebellido.com. That's with two L's, by the way, everybody.
Two L's, yes.
Is there a
It's
phone number they could reach you at as well?
it is. So the phone number is 408-313-2773. You can also find me on LinkedIn. I'm there as well. I'm also a part of BNI, so if you're looking
Yep. You
to
don't know what that
find me
is?
that
It's
way,
Business Networking International.
yes,
Yes, we're
yes,
part of
yes,
that.
yes.
Very, very good.
Great opportunity to learn how to network and things like that. And also
Absolutely.
one of the reasons why I was so thankful to meet you because you have a level of leadership within your networking group that
Thank you.
is is
Appreciate
is very command of excellence, but you do it in such an eloquent and sweet way that
it. We're humble servants at the end
it's
of the day.
great. It's really great. You
I
get you
appreciate that.
it's thought provoking. So
Very
I
good.
appreciate your time.
So this is how you get a hold of him. Make sure you give him a call again, whether you're an executive at a company who's looking to improve your audio visual, you are a homeowner who's looking to maybe get a studio, or just maybe you have a cave or some kind of cave, you have an entertainment room, you're a very small business owner wanting to improve your building, give him a call because as you can see, this guy has forgotten more than we'll ever know about audiovisual. Thank you again, Mr.
Thank you so much
Rebolito.
for your time, sir. I
You have a
appreciate
great
it.
weekend. Thank you for
Likewise.
all this amazing information
I
and your
appreciate it. Happy
approach.
Friday to you.
Take
Thank
care.
you so much.
All right.